A German officer took a bite of an apple in front of a prisoner, but he didn't expect that the prisoner would bite a grenade instead. The officer was stunned and thought it was a provocation, so he went up and punched the prisoner. But what happened next was even more magical. The prisoner who was punched looked like he was about to vomit, and then he pulled out a ribbon from his mouth. After spitting it all out, it turned out to be a medal. Moreover, this was not an ordinary medal, but a medal representing the highest honor of the German army. The officer was also stunned at this time, and asked the prisoner curiously where he got the medals of his army. At this time, the prisoner farted directly, and then a bell rang. The adjutant hurriedly looked for his pocket watch, but saw the prisoner pull out a watch from behind his butt. The adjutant was stunned. How could his pocket watch be in his butt? Just as he was about to snatch it back, the prisoner, holding the watch, stood over the well and jumped in without a word. The adjutant rushed forward to check, but suddenly a hand stretched out from the well. He called a few people to pull the prisoner out. The adjutant felt that he had been fooled and was about to beat the prisoner, but the watch returned to his possession without anyone noticing. The adjutant thought it was quite interesting, but the real excitement had just begun. The prisoner was like performing an acrobatic act, attracting everyone's attention and making everyone interested in him. He made the soldiers present laugh, and the atmosphere suddenly became much more relaxed. The officer liked his acrobatic performance very much and took a bite of the apple nonchalantly. However, the prisoner did something surprising and took out a grenade and took a bite of it. This made the soldiers nervous again, and they pulled out their guns just in case. The officer wanted to see what the prisoner was going to do. He took out a few more grenades and started doing acrobatic. He walked slowly backwards while playing and suddenly turned around and went into the warehouse. The adjutant quickly asked his men to go in and see what was going on. A few seconds later, the prisoner came out, running out of the warehouse with a wooden barrel on his head, in a funny way. He also looked funny as if he couldn't find his way. The soldiers all laughed at him and thought that this guy must be a fool who couldn't see anything. Seeing the prisoner being pushed around in the crowd, he was pushed down in the middle of the crowd. The adjutant was also attracted and wanted to see what this fool was performing. As a result, when he opened the wooden barrel, the man disappeared. The atmosphere suddenly became serious again. At this time, there was a sudden cat's meow. The adjutant thought that the prisoner had hidden in the car, but there was no one when he opened the door. Just as everyone was looking for the disappeared prisoner, several more cat's meows were heard in the distance. They were surprised to see that the prisoner had climbed onto the roof at some point and was sitting there licking his legs like a cat. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help laughing again. No one knew how he did it. Even the commander couldn't help but admire him. Then he pulled up another one. He set up a ladder, and no one knew what he was going to do next. He just started to climb up step by step, continuing to do difficult movements. With his strong sense of balance, he made an incredible performance. The posture made the soldiers present even afraid that he would fall down again. But at this time, the officer suddenly walked between the two girls and asked about the origin of the medal. Seeing that the prisoner on the roof still didn't say a word, the officer threatened him with the girls' lives. But the prisoner not only ignored the officer, but also made a contemptuous gesture to him. What happened the next second was even stranger. The prisoner directly jumped off the roof in a prone position, which confused everyone. They thought he was doing some new stunt. They all surrounded the prisoner. The officer also felt very strange and came over. He kicked him first, as if he was really dead. However, when he turned around, he found that the two girls who were originally tied to the leg frame were gone. When he realized something was wrong, the bullet had passed through his head. In just a few seconds, all the soldiers were killed by enemies who came from nowhere. Only a captain was left standing there stupidly, thinking that everyone was performing a group show. After there was no movement, the prisoner slowly stood up and saw that all the enemies had been knocked down, leaving only a confused captain. So he opened his mouth and said something, then raised his hand, telling the captain the purpose of his performance. The movie ended here.